and welcome to Mission Unstoppable. We're almost near the end of the season, and my last guest on Mission Unstoppable, he just got up to go somewhere. I don't know where he went, but I know he's going to be back in a second. His name is Jordon Goldberg, and he's a behavioral economist, co-founder, and former CEO of StickK. It's a commitment and goal-setting platform that promises to help people like you and I achieve our life, business, health, and career goals. Jordon graduated from Yale University in 2006 with a BA in American Studies, and he currently serves as a consultant in applied behavioral economics, working with startups to Fortune 500 companies in efforts to nudge customers and/or employee decisions toward desired outcomes in both the digital and retail experience. Jordon is a recipient of Yale School of Management's Silver Anniversary Scholarship. Wow. This scholarship is to the MBA program awarded to only 6 undergraduate students each year. I think that's pretty phenomenal. Well, we're waiting for Jordon to come back, and hopefully he will.
Well, I'm here.
He's there. He's back.
I've been here the whole time. I guess my face didn't show up, but I've been here.
Your face is gone. I need you back.
You can't see my face?
Now I can see your face.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I was here for the whole intro, so I appreciate the kind words.
Okay, I'm watching you come back on the Facebook side. It's a little delay. So, Jordon, one of the things that this is Mission Unstoppable, and I find it really interesting how people get where they are in their lives, you know? And I mean, you studied American history or American studies, and I'm not really sure what a BA in American studies gets you or what you're supposed to have at the end of it. Is that a history teacher, or like, what should you be?
Well, when I was an undergrad at Yale, I really thought that it was important to get a traditional liberal arts education and not necessarily major or train in something that would be a trade or necessarily something that would be a career-oriented skill, but something to really broaden my horizons as a human being. Okay. And it was for that reason that I decided I wanted to get my MBA to get some of the more practical know-how that would be useful for an entrepreneur like myself, because I knew that was a path that I was going to be following.
So were you little Jordon playing with whatever? What did you play with? What was your favorite toys?
That's a great question. I did play a lot of Monopoly. Played a lot of Stratego. Those were some of my favorite board games. And of course, bit of a video game nut like most young folks in the 90s. So yeah, it was fairly traditional childhood, but it was actually my parents who first sort of fostered an entrepreneurial spirit in me. I think they noticed that I would follow a little bit more of my own path and march to be my own drum and not necessarily take a conventional path. And so I think, I don't know if the toys had any influence, or if that was really necessarily a harbinger of things to come for me, but I'll let you decide what.
Well, I can kind of see that, as an entrepreneur, you need to be strategic. You need to, think outside the box a little bit. And those are kind of games that kind of take you there, Yep. Yeah. So do you have siblings?
I do. I have an older brother, and I have a twin sister, actually.
Okay.
Both of whom went to Yale with me.
Really? Mm-hmm. You know what? I got the same matchup. I have an older son and a boy and girl twins.
Is that right? Yeah. Oh, that's funny stuff. Small world. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And how do they get along?
Great. Everybody gets along pretty great.
Oh, wonderful.
Especially as adults. Not always as children. Right. The boys were rivals for quite a while. But the younger one, like the position that you're in, always walked to a different drummer. Very much so. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a result of being, not
second
being
child syndrome.
Son, not being the first daughter, and sort of being the leftovers.
The leftover, yeah. the replacement part guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I fell upon your site, and I'm a coach, and I talk to my clients a lot about underlying automatic commitments and the idea of commitments, and how the conscious brain thinks it's committed to something, and yet it's not, because we're always sabotaged by our subconscious. So how did you guys come up with this idea of StickK?
So this is actually born out of a lot of research done by my two co-founders, both of whom are behavioral economists and active professors, Ian Ayres and Dean Carlin. And they've done a lot of research into incentive design and accountability and how it can induce behavior change. And they really studied a lot around commitment devices, so sort of tying Odysseus to the mast, so to speak, where the long-term self and the short-term self, which are traditionally at odds, can then be reconciled by having the short-term self make a commitment about a future behavior. And that way, when there's reinforcement mechanisms around accountability or even more financial stakes, you're much less likely to renege on your stated intentions.
I guess it depends how much money you're putting up.
Absolutely. The idea is that we want people to put enough money on their commitment that the price of failure becomes too high, right? At what point is it too costly to continue your bad habits, right? Or not encourage your own good habits. And so, for instance, if your commitment is to lose a pound a week, each week, and you put $50 on the line each week to lose that pound, well, let's say you're faced with ordering a cheeseburger versus, a healthy alternative. Well, now that cheeseburger is not going to cost you $5. If you don't make your weight, that cheeseburger is going to cost you $55. We're literally raising the price of that poor decision today so that your short-term self is aligned with that long-term self. And so the idea is pick that price at which that cheeseburger is just too much to pay.
And who decides where the money goes? The client? Or
the user gets to decide. They have three different options. First, the money can be sent to charity, where we actually pool the money and we send it off to a group of 501c3s that we think do good work at the end of each calendar year. We do not allow the user to choose that charity because we don't want it to be too much of a silver lining to not succeeding. We love the fact that there's a great incidental benefit of the work that we do and that we're sending money to good causes. But our primary purpose is to help people change their behavior.
Right.
So that is really our goal. So that's the first. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wonder, how long, behavior change can take a little bit of time, right? So how long would people stick with you, do you think? When the first goal is done, or?
So most goals, we default to 12 weeks. We have found that we see the highest success rates for goals that are anywhere between 8 and 16 weeks. Probably for intuitive reasons, it takes some time to establish new habits and actually start reaping the benefits, where you're going to be more likely to sustain that behavior because that intrinsic motivation has started to take over. However, if you make the commitment too long, things change in your life. The pace at which you might be able to lose weight might change. You might be moving to a new city or have a new job, and your exercise regimen gets disrupted. And so when things are too long in nature, you have more likely.
A holiday comes along to sabotage, right? Is it a holiday comes along and you're screwed?
Exactly.
Got to work your way around those. Okay, so you got about 12-week commitment. Now, what's this referee? Who's that?
So the referee is a singular individual. You can actually outsource that accountability. And instead of being on the honor system, you can designate someone to verify your weekly report. So each week you'll say, okay, this is how many times I went to the gym, or I didn't smoke this week, or this is how many sales calls I made this week, or this is how much time I practiced my public speaking or my guitar lessons. And your referee actually is the official arbiter. So if you report that you were successful, we'll immediately ping your referee and says, hey, did Jordon stick to his commitment? And the referee can say yes, and we take the referee's word for it, or the referee can say no. And we actually take the referee's word for it over your own. So if you have money on the line, we will still charge your card, even if you say you were successful and if your referee says you were not. We want this to have real teeth. We're really trying to walk the walk here and not just talk the talk. And we want it to be binding. Okay.
Do people have to pay you to join StickK?
They do not. StickK is free. And let me be clear that putting up
money. So
is
this altruistic?
Is it profit? We are a for-profit.
Okay.
We have a white label service where we sell behavior change programs that are fully customized and curated for corporate clients, and that is primarily where we make our money. We also do take a transaction fee off of the forfeited stakes.
Okay. So it's interesting that the same carrot works for everything. So in business, I'm going to practice making sales calls, and I'm going to get 3 sales this week or 6 sales or whatever. I'm going to lose 6 pounds this week, or I'm going to try to find a relationship or something, or be nice all week, or whatever the case might be. Same carrot?
So in the corporate model, the short answer is no. It's a carrot-based model as opposed to the stick, where employees are accruing points for being successful in their goals. So often the application is for employee wellness. Sometimes it's more for career-oriented goals. So you give the sales examples, and each client actually would have a unique set of rewards. we have this points currency where they're accruing these points, and they can be redeemed in a virtual mall. And each client has their own virtual mall. So we'll actually conduct focus groups, and we'll try to understand, based on the demographics of that workforce, what types of carrots and incentives, what are really going to trigger people and keep them motivated and excited. So sure, you'll see some traditional stuff around gift cards, and and cool gadgets like Kindles and so forth. But we'll really get to know a client. If we had a client that was Fortune 500 company based in New Jersey, and they were right in the middle between sort of the Philadelphia sports world and the New York sports world, and we ended up doing competitions around giving out Eagles tickets and Giants tickets to an Eagles-Giants game. We've done things where we've given out tee times to local golf courses. If there was a Six Flags nearby, we did family-oriented rewards where they got family passes to Six Flags. So we like to do a lot of hyper-localized rewards that are really going to resonate with a given population. So it can vary considerably from client to client what that carrot model looks like.
And that's just based on honor system?
No, so the referee system does exist in that context as well. And sometimes we even kick it up a notch. So in some cases, a referee is actually required rather than optional.
Okay.
So for our corporate clients, we can require on a commitment by commitment basis a referee. Sometimes the user gets to choose, or sometimes it'll actually be a pre-designated referee where the user doesn't even get to invite their own. It could be there's an on-site yoga class, and the commitment is to go to the yoga class. That instructor might serve as a referee. We've had some clients that have Weight Watchers at work on site. We've had Weight Watchers employees serve as referees.
Okay.
You've been connected to your wearable devices like your Fitbit and had that serve as your automatic referee. So we have we go in with a scalpel in terms of what the verification requirements should look like.
Yeah. Now you got really good numbers of success rates, right? Something like around the 61% mark.
So
Is that low?
Well, that's about right, about 60%, and that includes both self-reported goals and ones that were confirmed by a referee or an automated device. And that you see pretty consistent across our corporate clients is in the low 60s. We see a much bigger range on the consumer side where users are risking their own cash. And that really varies depending upon whether or not they have a referee, whether or not they have money on the line, and where that money goes to. So we see, it ranges anywhere from about 22% to up to 82%, depending upon how many of these levers, how many of these accountability and reinforcement mechanisms they put into place.
I see. I recently saw a diet betting pool on Instagram where you put $30 in and you say that, everybody's going to lose 10% or 3% or 4%, whatever the number they said was. And they have to prove it by, stepping on a scale and taking a picture and time stamping. And then at the end, they do the same thing. And they can win like $1,200 or something because there's like 230,000 people in this pool all trying to lose weight. Now, is there something else that StickK would do to even support that more than just bucks?
So we on our corporate model, we do team-based competitions where in some cases it is cash, but more often than not, it'll be a corporate sponsored reward. So a given team might win a special happy hour or a retreat for everybody that participated and succeeded. Or it could be an outing to like a ball game, things of that nature. We try to make it more social for the rewards rather than giving out gift cards to everybody on the team, because we want them to, we want it to be in the spirit of that camaraderie and of that team support. And so we think that social outings really work well. So we try to encourage that as much as possible, because it's not only good for the individual as motivation, but it's good for the company in terms of team building and overall happiness and morale at work.
So do you have a given area, or are you all of the U.S., or where are you?
Yeah, all over the world. So most of our clients are, in the U.S., but we've had a number of clients in the U.K. and Latin America and even China.
Okay. So you would, wherever they live, that's where the incentive would be?
Yes. So it gets quite logistically difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So when we work with our international clients, we have to do a lot of legwork on what types of incentives we can do and make sure that we're also legally compliant in all the requisite countries. So sometimes we have to, unfortunately, be a little bit more limited in the types of rewards we offer when we're working with some other countries, just because of the nature of the logistics. And often you run into issues where, shipping costs are just absolutely dwarfing the actual cost of the reward. And so there's some business case hurdles that are often tough to navigate.
Are people different around the world as far as what motivates them?
I get asked that a lot, and I'll be honest, I wish I had some good data on it, because I see it I've seen many instances where they act exactly the same.
Yeah.
People respond to the same levers. And there's times where we have some clients where it's like, wow, they didn't respond to this at all, even though it really worked here in the US. And they responded really well to this other incentive that didn't work in the US. And so I wish I had a good answer for you, but the truth is, I don't. I think it's a case-by-case basis.
Okay. So I was looking into this behavioral economics world, and some words came up. Nudging, framing, social proof, scarcity. So let's go through a little bit of that. What's nudging? That's what you do.
Yes. So we do all the things that you just described. So you're on point with your behavioral terms. Let's start. I'm going to back up before you into nudging. Let's talk about choice architecture. Choice architecture, basically what we mean by choice architecture is anyone who designs an environment in which people are making decisions is a choice architect. Whether or not that environment is a grocery store layout, the design of a restaurant menu, if we're talking about retail, or in the digital experience, right? What does the shopping experience look like? What does what does an employee experience look like when they're trying to decide whether or not to max out their 401k, whether or not to what type of health plan they want, the ones offered, and designing that environment is choice architecture. Now, within that, what you're designing. The idea is that you want to have very deliberate intent in what you're designing to nudge people, right? So basically give them a little pat into certain directions. And so a behavioral economist, we don't want to limit choice. We think choice is part of the American fabric. We don't want to restrict choice, but we want to sort of highlight the yellow brick road, maybe sort of gray out the suboptimal choices. And that's what we do is we try to nudge people into specific directions. And nudging can take place in many forms, right? We talked about framing techniques. A nudge can be through social proof. A nudge can be through loss aversion or through progress illusion. It could just simply be through defaults. So to give you a very simple example of a nudge, you might be at an on-site cafeteria at a large Fortune 500 company, or even at a restaurant, and maybe your sandwich comes with fries, but you could substitute it for the salad. Well, the default is the fries, and they have to make an active choice to substitute the salad. You're going to have a much lower incidence rate of people ordering the salad than if the default was it comes with salad and you have to make an active and verbal choice to substitute the French fries instead. So that's a very simple example of a nudge. And of course, we could talk for hours about other really cool examples.
I'm just going to stop you just for 1 second. If you're listening to this video, I am speaking to Jordon Goldberg, and he was the CEO of StickK, but he still is a behavioral economist. And right below us, where you're talking, there's a like button. Just hit the like button. That really helps us go through Facebook wide and well. So I appreciate that. Thanks so much. Okay, so we're going to nudge you a little bit to where we want you to go. And I want you to hit that button. Yep. I'm being direct. Hey, I'm not even going to nudge you. I'm just going to hit the damn button. Framing. Is it how I talk about something is makes it more something I want more than something else?
So framing is basically the idea behind framing is by framing a choice, right? By presenting a choice in two different manners, you might actually have great impact on the choices that they make. So, for instance, we have corporate clients where they might ask their employees to contribute to their healthcare premium, and so you can frame that contribute. And then what will often happen is they'll want to incentivize people as part of that healthcare premium to complete, for instance, a health risk assessment or a biometric screening. So they might go to their employees and say, hey everybody, you have to contribute $3,000 towards your healthcare premium. If you complete your HRA, your health risk assessment, and if you complete your biometric screening, then you only have to contribute $2,500. So they're giving you a $500 incentive. It's a $500 carrot. You can take that same set of economic trade-offs and frame it as a stick. You could say to the same employees, hey everybody, you only have to contribute $2,500 this year. But if you don't complete your HRA and you don't complete your biometric screening, then you have to contribute $3,000. So now it's framed as a $500 punishment. You'll see a higher compliance rate when it's framed as the stick versus the carrot. And that obviously borrows from the principles around loss aversion, that people go to greater lengths to avoid losing things that they already have than they do to gain things that they never did. And so that is a simple frame where the set of choices is identical, presented to you differently, and people make different selections as a result.
Right. And I think that for some people, losing or gaining? I guess it was probably different for the individual, whoever they are,
It
depending on their
varies,
life
for
experiences.
sure. It's nothing I talk about today is a sort of a silver bullet or something that's
Yeah.
universally applicable. But I will say, by and large, there are more people that are that will go to greater lengths to avoid losing something they already have than they
So
would.
they're risk adverse rather than, okay. So social proof, take me through that.
So social proof, that's a little bit more of an intuitive behavioral tenet, which is essentially people respond greatly to seeing other similar, what we call similarly situated individuals behave in a certain way, and people are more likely to conform to that social norm.
Okay.
There's actually a really interesting study. I can't remember the name of it, so I don't want to misquote it. But the premise was that a series of energy bills were sent out to consumers in California. This was probably about 10 years ago. Some people, when they received their bill, they were told about the importance of reducing their energy usage for the environment. Another group randomly received a letter saying, here's how much money you can save by reducing your energy bill. And then a third group received a leaderboard and said, this is how you're doing against your neighbors. The folks who had the greatest subsequent reduction in future months, the people who were shown how their neighbors were performing compared to them.
That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. You know, it's funny because our youngest son moved back in and he just got a sales job. And he's coming home with all this, oh yeah, the Jones effect really works and that. And I'm like, that wouldn't work on me. I want to be different from everybody. I don't want to be the same as everybody. You tell me everybody's buying something, I'm not going to buy it at all. But everybody's different. And people do like to, feel like they belong, I guess. Right.
Exactly.
And so I can see how that would totally work. And people are a little bit competitive.
Absolutely. Yep.
I love it. And of course, scarcity is, if you don't buy now, it's not going to be here. So you better get it right away.
Exactly. That's essentially what it is. And that can obviously take many forms. And you'll see a lot of that, like you're booking a hotel, like only 2 rooms left. And they'll try to create a sense of urgency by saying 10 other, it's 2 left, but 10 other people are looking at this right now. And so that scarcity effect, yes, absolutely, is to drive and nudge people to make a decision right then and there for fear of, we'll call it FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah, yeah. So what kind of commitment devices are available?
So
I find that interesting.
When I use devices, we mean that literally or figuratively. So we call our commitment contracts commitment devices by putting money on the line and putting, your reputation on the line. Now, are you referring to more of the physical devices?
Pardon?
But is that what you're referring to by commitment devices? Or are you?
I don't know. I mean, it was just something that had come up, and I'm wondering, like, is there gamification devices that you have in place, or that other people have in place?
Yeah. So where the line is drawn between some behavioral nudging techniques and gamification is often subject to debate. Gamification borrows from a lot of behavioral techniques, and so. Especially in our corporate environment, we absolutely like to gamify the experience where people can unlock by hitting certain point thresholds. They can unlock additional rewards. We give them little sub-milestones to hit as they're accruing points to make them feel like they have a sense of accomplishment. Of course, if you put leaderboards and you make folks feel like they're competing against other folks either individually or as part of a team, that helps gamify it, because what you're doing is you're adding that element of like feeling like you're accomplishing something, either as an individual or as a team. And so that's another layer of motivation to continue on. And so there's a lot of tech companies that are using gamification techniques to nudge folks, for better or worse. Uber is a famous example of one that I think in the media has probably gotten some negative attention, but from a behavioral economist's perspective, is probably falls down the fairway, actually.
Wait, to explain that, I'm sorry.
So, Uber uses a lot of techniques to get people to, complete one extra ride or to hit certain milestones in how much money they've made in a given day by sort of gamifying the app experience, rather than just saying, hey, each ride you're going to make some money, but like you're trying to hit certain thresholds, or they're trying
for the driver, then not the user.
Driver, yes.
Okay.
Well, now actually, Uber Rewards just came out. They have a big loyalty program that they're launching. It does also now for the consumer. Have a lot of perks in it that are going to be borrowing from a lot of these gaming concepts. And so, again, there are ways to again, just nudge people to continue along a given or desired path. But whether or not that's nudging for good or nudging for I don't want to call it nefarious purposes, because in this example, I actually don't agree with some of the sentiment, but it's interesting to see what is effective regardless.
Well, thanks for that segue into ethics. The ethics behind this. Is it ethical to sway people to purchase or buy or do something that they might not have gone?
Right, and so the Uber was the perfect example of like, okay, we're on what side of the fence are you on? I think every behavioral economist will probably have their line drawn a little bit differently. A lot of behavioral economists really only like to focus on public policy work, nonprofits. A lot of behavioral finance folks particularly like to work with low-income and minority populations, and really where it's unequivocally only for good, right? How do we get people to save more money? How do we get people to stop smoking? Where there's really no room for debate as to the merits, right, and the societal value. Frankly, from my perspective as a consultant, I'm a little bit more neutral. Certainly, if a cigarette company asked me, how do we nudge people to smoke more cigarettes, I would politely decline the business. But if I find that it's neutral in nature, it's trying to nudge additional consumption of a particular product that I don't think is necessarily harmful or necessarily beneficial, but it's trying to nudge purchasing more clothing. As long as you're not targeting, say, a population that shouldn't be purchasing these things because they can't afford it. It's something for me personally, and I'm only speaking to my own ethics. That is something where I'm okay with. But.
Okay, that's fair. That's good. I like that. I'm with you on social impact, and really like to feature nonprofits and have people who can use some exposure, right? Okay, so the cigarette's interesting because cigarettes cost a lot of money today. Like I used to smoke eons and eons ago. I quit. I guess when I was in my 30s. They cost me 35 cents. Today, you're spending, I don't know, $14, $15 for a pack of cigarettes. So if they're already spending so much money on cigarettes and they put up money, like, where's the incentive really for them? They don't mind losing that money.
But this goes back to the first point about raising the price of your vice, and that you have to pick the price point at which it's going to change your behavior. And sadly, at $14 a pack for a lot of people, it's not changing their behavior.
I can't believe it.
Right. Now, cigarettes are a little bit different than things like weight loss and exercise, where there is an addictive component, right? Where people maybe can't afford the $14 and they don't feel they have a choice or can exercise any agency. But be that as it may, we're hoping that there's still, by raising that price there for many people, that will sway their behavior. And so, the idea is that you're doubling down on the losses, but it is just too painful.
I thought it was really interesting. I was on StickK today, and there was a young girl, and she said, it really worked for me. I studied really hard for my interview for tomorrow, and I think I did a really good job. I thought, you need to put up money or something so that you would study to do something that's really good for you when you're going to go on an interview, like study for it. Like, I find that really amazing. Like, they do everything, right? Everything is up for grabs.
Absolutely. It just goes back to the short-term self versus the long-term self. The long-term self wants to have that great career, wants to do well in that interview, but the short-term self might want to go out to dinner, might want to watch extra reruns of Modern Family rather than studying. Inertia takes hold, and you keep watching TV, or you want to go to the gym because you want to be healthy, but you end up going to happy hour instead. So our stated intention, there's always what we call the intention behavior gap, right? We have stated intentions, and then we have what we actually do. And unfortunately, they're not one and the same, and we're trying to narrow that gap.
So do you have users who lose the first 2 or 3 times and still stick around?
You mean tell me lose their commitment, or are you talking about losing weight?
Yeah, no, they lose the commitment.
Yes. So we see, I guess, 3 different camps of people, right? There's the people who have success right off the bat on our platform that continue to make multiple commitments. We actually see the highest incidence rate of people making multiple commitments when they have some success, but not complete success, right? They hit like that 70 or 80%, but there's still a little bit more to go, and they realize it's working for them. But yeah, sadly, this is not a panacea, right? This is not a cure-all, and certainly, there's people who don't have the success that we would hope for them, and sometimes they try it again, but more often than not, if they didn't find success the first time around, they're more likely to abandon the platform. And we try to pull them back in the loop, through email, email nudges and other communication, but sometimes you're not a service for everybody.
Okay, I have to ask this.
Yep.
What's the strangest, weirdest thing you've seen on the site?
Well, how much time do you have? Gosh, we've seen quite a bit. I've seen commitments around, taking anger management classes. I've seen commitments around learning how to use chopsticks.
I love that.
The commitment was to learn to speak to foreigners more slowly in New York City. I've seen commitments to not call or text an ex. We had a lot of romantic commitments. We've seen significant others actually have a commitment around the number of times in which they're going to have sex in a given week to make sure that they make time for each other to be intimate. I've seen somebody commit to go skydiving. I've seen somebody commit to being a stand-up comedian and getting out there for the first time.
That's a good one.
That's
hard.
Once actually, a commitment was to, I guess he was socially awkward. I didn't feel like he was dating enough, and his commitment was to ask a woman each day for her number. And he actually called that one social skydiving. We've seen, it's been really interesting. There's a lot of.
You've been around what, 8 years, 6 years, 8 years?
10.
10 years.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. So 10 years and going strong.
Yep, absolutely.
So do you see a rise? Like, is it continuing to rise?
Yes. In fact, actually, so what's been fascinating is I would say we're a rare breed of middle class for a tech company where we have seen very consistent linear year-over-year growth, right? It's never waned. It's never, exploded to 10 million users overnight, but every year we gain a healthy number of new active users, and it's always been very steadily and consistently growing throughout our history. There has been a slight uptick lately. We actually have done a lot of revamping with both our iPhone and Android app, and even the desktop experience. So folks who have been around for a couple of years have probably noticed some tremendous differences in the experience on the site over the last 24 months. And so we have, as a result of some of those improvements, we actually have seen a more aggressive growth of late.
So of all the areas that we've talked about, which is the most successful area?
Successful in terms of the types of behavior people are working on?
Yeah, the change in behavior.
That's a good question. It's a great question. Interestingly, I think that it's tough to ascertain. So like, for instance, weight loss, we actually have the lowest success rate, even though it's the most popular commitment. But I do think weight loss inherently, it's very quantifiable.
Yeah.
So it's tough to skirt, getting around whether you've been successful. I do think it requires a little bit more intrinsic motivation to change your behavior, whereas there are other goals that have higher success rates that might be a little bit more qualitative in nature, or might just be, lower barrier for lower threshold for actually being able to change your behavior, right? So we'll see a higher success rate for going to the gym, because that's much more in someone's control than losing weight. Losing weight is more of an outcome, so you might have a success rate, but you'll see a higher success rate with the behavior-based goals because I have control over going to the gym or eating well. But my view is you can't have one without the other. If you want to lose weight, you should make the behavior-based goals as well. And it's actually okay in my mind that the behavior ones are a little bit higher. That's going to be very motivating and rewarding for people and encouraging that they have higher success rates with those behaviors. Even if the outcome is not a perfect direct correlation between the input and the output, you're still seeing, the results of your efforts.
I agree. But I always thought that there should be a fat gym and a slim gym. Because people who are overweight don't want to go and work out with people who are very slim. It's not motivating, it's demotivating, because you look at that and go, God, I'll never get there. Or you feel embarrassed to be there, right?
Well, in a lot of gyms, actually, you're right on the money. A lot of gyms have been doing what they can in that regard, obviously without being discriminatory. So you've got Curves as a great example, which is just, and that's to remove some of the social unease about, maybe working out in front of men or people who are really doing a lot of weightlifting that can be intimidating. Certainly Planet Fitness, actually, if you see a lot of their ad campaigns, they actually advertise this as for the average Joe and not for the big, bulky hunk.
Hulk,
or alert alert or something like that. And they have like a siren go off when someone's, I guess, being a little bit of a gym intimidation, as they call it.
I love that.
They're well done ads.
I love that. Oh wow! So what's new next for you?
For me personally, I have been enjoying. So as much as I love StickK, about a year or so ago, one of my co-founders and I, we actually left because we wanted to explore more in the area of behavioral economics and in behavior change without necessarily being constrained by our technology. So what's great about StickK is we've got this easy to use platform that anybody can go and use, and that's great. But there's greater opportunities for us to, from a very academic and intellectual perspective, create nudges and interventions and be choice architects in environments outside of StickK. And so that's been a lot of fun for us to work with clients on the brick and mortar and designing retail spaces and looking at how people flow and seeing if we can nudge paths that people take and ultimately their purchase patterns, or working in other digital app experiences besides StickK and getting people to follow.
That reminds me of, what was her name? Temple Grandin, when she designed it for the cows, a flow for cows that will calmly go into, where they're going to get killed, but right. Calmly do that by how she had designed the feature. Exactly. Right. And so that is really a way of behavior modification, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, that's very cool. So what kinds of companies, what would a store, let's say a store want you to do? They want you to go here first, or they want you to experience something?
Yeah, so
what might they want?
It could be a variety of things. So, they might say, okay, when we have high inventory of something or excess inventory and we need to get rid of it to make room for new inventory, what are the best ways to, what are the best incentives? What are the best designs in the layout of a car parking lot to get, to get the old cars off the lot, or getting last year's fall line off the clothing racks so the winter can take hold. Or you look in, take a very elementary example. Look at a grocery store. There's a reason a lot of people might know this, that the eggs and the milk are in the back, right? And the reason is because that's a household staple that people often go to the grocery store for. So if you kept that by the register, people might not necessarily wander throughout the other aisles. By putting it in the back, it compels people to walk through the other aisles. They're more likely to continue pulling items off their shelves. Another example, actually, this borrows from what we call progress illusion, which sounds maybe a little sinister or underhanded, but it's a very effective tactic. And progress illusion is to make people feel either further along or further behind in a journey. And so I'll give you a couple of retail examples. There was actually a study done at Columbia where a behavioral economist went to the local coffee shop on campus and gave out a frequent diners card to a group of random patrons. And you've seen these, right? You buy 10 cups of coffee, you get a stamp each time, and then they give you the 11th one for free. Well, they gave out that card to a group of random patrons, and they gave out another card to a different group of random patrons where you had to buy 12 cups of coffee before getting the 13th one for free. When they handed you the card, the first two were already stamped. So in either scenario, you actually did the same amount of consumption, which is buy 10 cups before getting the 11th for free. But going back to framing techniques, one was framed to you in a 10 situation. The other is a 2 for 12. The people who received the 2 for 12 card pulled it up 20% faster. They completed it in an average of 12 days versus 15 days for the folks who got the ordinary card. So that's just one example, right, of how to nudge people into consumption patterns. And that's progress illusion. Another cool example of progress illusion, actually, the average size of a shopping cart in suburban areas, this is not the case for urban areas, has increased dramatically over the last 20 years. And the reason is because when you have a bigger cart, obviously there's the notion that, yeah, sure, you can physically carry more stuff. But there's something a little bit more subtle going on, which is if you're not necessarily filling up the cart all the way, if you have a bigger cart, as you're pulling some items off the shelves, the perception of how much you're purchasing goes down if you've got a larger cart. If the cubic feet that you're taking up is smaller. And the idea is that it subtly induces you to either continue pulling items off the shelf or just maybe feeling a little silly, like, oh, I drove all the way to the store, got this big cart only to buy these two small items. And it's a subtle nudge to.
Wow, that's so nefarious.
It is indeed.
Consumer beware.
There's other little stories about that.
I love that, though. I love it. It's good. It's good to be aware. It's good to be aware. It's good to know what you don't know.
Yep.
Right? Yeah. So the website for StickK is stickk.com, stick.com. And if you want to do anything, any behavior, whatever it is that you want to do, and you're ready to put a little bit of cash on the line, you will help people through that commitment, make a commitment to themselves. And that's really, that's the person you have to make a commitment to, nobody else, really. Change their goals or habits, or make their goals, complete, or whatever it is that they want to do. So good for you guys for coming up with that. That's pretty awesome.
And actually, while we're on the subject of putting money on the line, actually, we got distracted at the beginning of the conversation. There are actually two other places where your money can go besides.
Oh, okay.
I'd love to highlight it for your audience. So you can choose charity, whereas I mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that the money gets pooled and sent to a group of 501c3s that we work with. We don't allow you to choose because we don't want it to be too much of a silver lining. The second option is you can actually designate what we call the friend or foe option, where you can send your money to your significant other or your roommate or your buddy or somebody that's going to go spend the money on beer or shoes or something that irks you, and it can really dangle it in front of your face. And the third option, this is the kicker, it's what we call the anti-charity. And that's actually where we'll take your money and we send it to an organization that you hate if you're not successful. And here we actually will let you choose this specific organization, unlike the charity, because we want this to resonate with you in a personal way, but in a very negative. We really want your blood to boil.
Like Trump's campaign.
NRA or vice versa. And we have 4 or 5 highly contentious issues with the organization on each side. Of course, StickK as a company doesn't take a stance on any of these.
That is so funny. I love it. So love or hate, whatever drives you more.
Yep. Absolutely. A number of people have written in saying, my significant other is going to kill me if I ended up sending money to this organization. And that was what, that threat is what, made them stick to their role.
That is funny. I love that. I love that. I know a lot of people that would work for. Oh, it's not good to hate.
Well, if it's whatever works is our mentality within reason.
Yeah.
We've had some suggestions for anti-charities that were sort of outside the bounds for us. It's not a 501c3. We didn't want to touch it, but it was interesting to see the lengths that some of our users would like to go to in terms of paying their money to some really, truly abominable organizations that I don't think any fair-minded person would want to see their money go to.
Yeah. How many people are we talking about that use their site?
Oh, we have hundreds of thousands of users. I think there's been, and several 100,000 commitments have been made to the site with over $40 million waged to date. And at any given moment, I believe there are
$40 million. Wow, that's a lot of moolah.
Probably around 25,000 commitments at any given time going on.
How much money's gone to charity?
Oh, over our history, a few $1 million, absolutely, to charity. A few million cumulatively to the anti-charities.
Love it.
Which organization has done the best, but some have benefited quite well. There's been some specific organizations alone that have gotten, $200,000, $300,000, even $400,000 from us over the years. And so, it's been been quite a ride seeing some of the reactions, because we explain to the anti-charities why they're getting their money.
Okay.
So we're not taking a side, but we want to be very transparent in terms of why this money is being sent to you. And there are times where they don't care, and there's times where we get a letter saying we're going to politely decline this contribution.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's happened on 2 occasions actually, where we've had to update the available anti-charities when we had somebody decline the donation because
it wasn't coming from the goodness of their heart.
Money from people who truly believed in their cause, and not for the folks who, have
It's pretty ethical.
Yeah, so we certainly respected the decision.
Yeah, and then what happened to the money?
So what happens in that case is we actually have in our terms and conditions, in the event that an organization won't accept it, we will pick a very similar organization who's got a similar agenda.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I love it. Yeah. Wow, Jordon, you're so young to be so accomplished.
Thank you. Well, I'm probably not quite as young as you might think.
Well, you look really young.
34, so I've had
that is very young. Yeah, no, you're young for sure. Like, wow, you're in a really, really good place in your life. Your parents must be very proud of you.
They tell me they are.
Well,
I'm not sure what they say.
They lied. No, they didn't. Of course they did. That's pretty cool. That's really good. No, congratulations on all the stuff that you've accomplished and where you're going in the future. And thanks so much for being on the show with me today. I really enjoyed it.
Frankie, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you, and I hope to stay in touch in the future.
Yeah, me too. Stay where you are. Goodbye, Facebook. We're going away.